Hello, I'm Anita, founder of Anita's List and host of the Anita's List podcast. Over the last 20 years, I've helped more than 12,000 first-time parents choose all their baby kit and prepare for parenthood both practically and emotionally. I'm delighted to be sharing with you the truly fabulous Ollie and Gareth Locke. Back on our screens in Made in Chelsea, an entrepreneur's extraordinaire. Any time spent with these two new dads is pure joy, so I know you're going to love our chat. Ollie and Gareth share their long journey into parenthood via surrogacy and their first year or so with their scrumptious twins, Apollo and Cosima, with such openness. I'm so impressed by their genuine wish to help others by sharing their own experience. I so hope you enjoy our conversation and find it helpful too. So, Gareth and Ollie, I am so excited to have you here today with me. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah, so kind. You've been so wonderful to us. You were a massive part of our journey. And so this is, I think, a perfect place to start and to tell people about our journey with you and et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. I can't believe it was about 18 months ago, wasn't it?
It was, oh God, yeah, that was, because we were quite late to it as well, weren't we?
Yeah.
I say we were late to it. Our kids were born at 31 weeks, so they were born early, so it feels like we're a bit late to it. But
I got the loveliest message. So basically, your messages are like warm hugs. So when I get a message from either of you, it's like, darling, my dear friend Binky, my really good friend Tabitha, they all said, I have to come and see you. And I said, oh my, this is so lovely. And I think I was 2 weeks away from having breast cancer surgery.
Absolutely.
And you were just so lovely. And I just thought, you know what, I really wanted to come round and to see you. And I don't think I told you at that point, because it wasn't about me at that point. So there was literally no point. But then I was so happy after 2 or 3 hours with you in your house. I was like, oh.
But you know, you bring a sense of love and joy and happiness wwherever you go. We all know that. That's why people trust you as
calming.
well.
I love it. It's one of the best things. I think that's what you made me feel so safe with everything you did for us, and your knowledge on everything is just absolutely amazing. When really we had no idea. You don't know first time parents unless you really get under it, and there's so much stuff out there that you just don't know where to go and where to look.
Well, we're all winging it. That's why I keep on saying to people, we're all winging. No one knows what to do
but
at
I
the
think
beginning.
we all are, and we keep winging. I mean, I feel I'm still winging it because I'm still learning on the job, because I've never had a 25 and a 22-year-old.
Of course.
And they keep changing. It's like, oh no, stop changing. But that first time pregnancy, it's such an odd moment, particularly for you two, because you'd had a really long journey getting to that point.
It was certainly an interesting journey.
I've kind of blacked it all out now. How many is 4 years? Was it 4 years? No.
It's been 4 years since we started the journey.
Yeah.
Just coming up to next month. Yeah. And to be fair, it feels like it's gone quite quickly, but also the slowest journey of our lives.
It's one of those things where I think COVID obviously didn't help alongside it as well. It sort of just paused things and dragged things out, but it did take a long time to get there. We were obviously very public about our journey, because we wanted to talk about it, we wanted to share everything, and we actually found out live on camera that the first round we did didn't work.
And was that really live on camera?
Yes, that was. It was
that's
absolutely
a
horrendous.
huge thing
It was horrendous.
Yeah,
I remember
imagine.
saying to the producers before and the cameramen, I said, guys, we've all worked together for a long time. Whatever happens, whatever the decision, whatever the circumstance is, just keep rolling, because we will give you exactly what our reactions are. And I think a lot of people, reality TV is a thing that people sometimes look down on. I look up at it along the way. The reason why we did it at the beginning is because we didn't know what we were doing. Reality was a very new little venture. So from someone that was there from day one, series 1 of Made in Chelsea, we weren't there for the fame, because we thought we weren't there for that. Yeah. But I thought, as this is going on, I would like to give the real reality. Instead of people going on Love Island and thinking I'm going to get 10 million followers in no time at all and get an endorsement, we put the absolute reality in it.
I think that's the important thing, isn't it? It's basically like putting it all out there, stuff that's uncomfortable to put out there. And we shared the entire journey from when we went through IVF for the first time, and then obviously when we found out live on camera. And up until that point, people were like, oh, please don't make this look so easy. Please don't make this, because obviously when we're doing the first round, it's all exciting, it's new, you haven't had any letdowns. Like and it was all amazing, and we were so excited because we were so ready to be parents and all this sort of thing. And everyone was like, "It's it can take multiple rounds. Please don't make it look this easy. It's not. People struggle." And then it didn't work for us, and it didn't work for us a few times. And the people who were saying, "Please don't make this look too easy," they then were like, "Thank you so much for sharing this." I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. It was tough, awful, tough.
But you should be really proud of that, because I think now so many people are afraid to have the difficult conversations. And then you're trailblazing for other people who are coming through. And we all, we spend so long trying to not get pregnant or not, not having a baby. It's so weird, isn't it?
That's what I say.
This is one of his favourite things.
Found the guy, now we're ready, off we go.
It's one of my biggest things I say every time, and this always gets a big response when I say it, is you spend your entire 20s trying not to get pregnant, your entire 30s trying to.
Yes, exactly.
And that's something that with a lot of my girlfriends, we have some of them have had wonderful successes, and some of them call up crying sometimes because they are reaching their late 30s, early 40s, and they haven't found a man yet, and they don't know what their options are. And there's a struggle there. It's a horrible biological fact that menopause comes in at some point, and it's difficult for a lot of people.
So hard. And then there's shame around it, and I don't want to talk about it and don't want to share it with my friends because you still think it's your fault. But of course
it's one of the interesting things that we learned on the journey was that actually predominantly most of the time, there's all this thing about miscarriages and stuff like this, predominantly most of the time it's down to the man and the health of the man's sperm, because a man's sperm is every 3 months.
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months is completely regenerated, and it's highly down to lifestyle and diet, etc. And a lot of the time, why people struggle would be down to the man, not the woman. And it happens all too often where something happens and they can't get pregnant, and the woman takes it on themselves, and it's not the right way. And people need to talk about it more. And you did a documentary on Channel 4, didn't you?
I implore anyone to go on to 4OD and look up Celebrity Save Our Sperm. I hate the fact I had celebrity on because it was never meant to be that. However, it's myself, Russell Kane, the comedian, and Melvin O'Doom, the DJ. And the three of us have 3 months to make our sperm better. And we have nutritionists, we have everything. And any man or any couple that is going through any fertility problems, sometimes just look at the male and get him to sit him down, give him a pizza, make him watch this, because he needs to realise what he could actually been changing about his lifestyle, which may be the reason why there are miscarriages happening. There are all sorts of stuff that's going on in the body, and we teach you everything about how to make your sperm as best it possibly could.
Pizza's probably not the best.
And 12 weeks isn't that long.
I had then, at the same time I was meant to be doing this challenge for Channel 4, I'd flown to Bali to go and film another series of Chelsea. Now, Bali is potentially the most polluted place you'll ever go in your life now. And the motorcycle fumes are horrendous, so that's not going to be good for breathing that in. And you're on a Made in Chelsea tour. What are you going to do? You're probably going to have a drink or 17, and that's not great. And I tell you what, it's difficult when you're on holiday and you don't want a cigarette, when you've been a smoker for ages. I quit smoking the day the babies were born, but I was a smoker before that. So it was quite difficult, but I got my results, and there was quite huge, significant changes from the beginning, and not some things that I was doing.
Wow.
A lot of stuff. Your diet improved.
My diet improved thoroughly. I was taking wonderful pills, which I always say Proceive is
Walnuts.
the ones that I took. Walnuts every day, that kind of stuff. There's so many wonderful things you can do. Brazil nuts are great in quantity, etc., etc. But there's all these things to make your sperm better. But it was hugely interesting.
Yeah, amazing. And here you are now, proud dads of Apollo and Cosima.
Very proud dads,
Oh my gosh. I mean, how has life changed? You can't imagine the before, really, can you?
Do you know what I was thinking about the other day? And I was like, trying to think back to those first early months, because Apollo had an operation the other week and he's been up a bit. And I was just like, how did we manage in the beginning? And we didn't sleep for like 3 months. Do you remember that? It was every 2 hours. And I'm like, that seems so long ago, but also it doesn't seem that long ago. And then so much so that now, I mean, someone said to us before when we just had twins, and you don't say this, someone who's just had twins, are you going to have any more? I mean, you've just had twins and you're in the thick of it. Now I've kind of got like this mindset where I'm like, could I have more? And I'm kind of like a third. And I was like, And then you kind of like, you just think like, we've still got embryos left, amazingly, good embryos. And I'm kind of like, they made it so far. They could make it further, but then I'm going to end up like the Von Trapps.
I just, if I'm honest, we've been incredibly lucky, and we have got 2 lovely, healthy boy and girl twins. Now that is a 1 in a million chance, and we're very lucky to have that. To then risk it and to also to have anything go wrong again would break my heart. And we've gone through enough heartbreak that we've managed to push down inside of us and then live through the joy of having these 2 children that I don't want to ever go through. It's not even the babies, it's the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah.
that sounds
And
selfish for me because it's not me being pregnant, but we all go through it together as a
Yeah.
husband and a wife would do so. We're a married couple, same-sex couple, but we have our surrogate who actually approached us to do it. It wasn't the other way around. And she's coming down next weekend, and she's heaven, and she's part of the baby's life. She's the middle name of Cosmo's middle name is her name, and she's a massive part of our lives.
Yeah, and she always will be.
Oh,
And that's
God, yeah,
lovely,
massively,
isn't it? And when
massively.
you have a surrogate in the UK, they have to approach you. It's a very
It's
thing to other countries.
altruistic is the thing, and you can't pay for a surrogate over here. You pay expenses like travel, clothing, stuff
They
like
just
that.
can't be out of pocket.
They can't be out of pocket, exactly. So it truly is an amazing thing that people do in this country, and it's one of the great things about the UK, because it is an amazing thing, because it truly is someone wanting to do it because they want someone to be a parent. And
Yes.
Bex was like, she was just like resonated so much with us. She was just like, I know you'll be great dads, so I want to help you get there.
Incredible. And did she have the right to change her mind?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Oh,
were
God,
you
yeah.
sort of on tenterhooks right up until that moment where you knew?
That is the situation when people come to me or myself and Gareth and ask about surrogacy. That's the one thing they're scared of. There's never been a case in Britain that has actually, they have won.
It's a two-way street though, because we could also say to Bex when she
Yeah,
was
we
our
could.
surrogate, we could be like, we don't want the kids, and then they're her responsibility.
Yeah.
By law, right now, we could go back and say they're yours now.
Really? Gosh. Until when?
Well, until you do the parental order,
Yes.
which we haven't
Well,
actually done
it's
yet.
all being done at the moment.
Yeah. How amazing. But there's such a trust thing, isn't there? I think for someone
it
to
is.
want to do that in the first place, it's such a big deal. And most surrogates already have their own children, don't they?
You have to.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's a healthy thing
Yeah.
as well, because like if you know what having kids are, and you know, you have to have gone through something to understand all the emotion of it. Like it's 9 months of your body. Like it's an incredible journey that you go through, and such a bonding journey that you have to understand. Even though it was someone else's egg, you have to understand what it's going to be to have to give up a child, because you are essentially, whilst it's in you, you're bonding with it.
And they've got so many friends and family around them who just adore them. And that's
Absolutely.
unusual.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And you've been, what I love about you two, one of so many things, that you were always going to be good dads. You just always were. And so seeing how your joy now is just being shared with friends and family, not just, you haven't pulled up the drawbridge and we're doing this as a four. Like it's really a lovely thing that everybody.
Oh my God, it takes a village.
It is.
Takes
you
a
do
village.
have a village. It's
but
really cool.
Wait, but our family aren't in London, so but as occasionally they do come on. My brother was up last week. You met my brother?
Yes,
you met my brother. But we have an amazing group of friends around us who are like our family. Godparents to the kids, and it really is one. I think one of the most amazing things is for kids to be social.
Yeah.
Like it's good for them to be around good people.
Yeah.
People who love them, people who are engaging with them, all this sort of thing. I think it's brilliant for social development. I think it's brilliant for their development overall. And it's just a big part of our life is community, isn't it, around
Absolutely.
us?
Well, that's incredibly important. Again, living in London, you have to have a community around us. We have Sunday roasts most Sundays, and that's an opportunity for us to. And it's my favourite. And I don't even mind peeling potatoes.
Oh.
And I sit there with a
That's your
glass of
thing,
red
isn't it?
wine, and
Yeah.
I go, we're listening to music and with people around us, and just smile, because we're very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And we've got a lovely. We invite the stragglers.
Yeah, I
So
love
anyone
that.
that doesn't have anything to do on a Sunday, come
Yes,
round. We'll feed you
yes.
and drink
But
with you.
you've made that happen, because we're not meant to raise children on our own. And I think there's never been a more isolating time to have a baby than now, because social media, everyone looks like they're really under control, and sort of this idea of being a perfect parent. But the way that you have created your village and invited the stragglers and invited friends and family to share, it's a lovely thing for you, but also for the children and for everyone else who might not have children yet, and think, oh, actually, for any of our listeners listening, actually how to do this, because none of us have a clue, I don't think, and you do it in a way that suits you. But I think one massive learning from the way that you're doing this whole parenting thing is you're you're doing it really well because you're doing it as a community. I love
think
it. I love it.
We were both brought up in quite an old school environment, and that is where we could play in the streets and and one of Gareth's first memories is being put in the cloakroom in Mallorca, checked in like a coat while mum and dad went and got pissed.
I was like, I said it was a cloak. Did I say, what did Dad say? No, it wasn't a cloakroom. It was a cupboard. Or something like that. But I don't know. It was in the evening. I know it was the 80s. It's
Now
fine.
I'm not saying that's what we did, but what I am saying is there's a slice of old school that we've taken from what we were so happy as children, and so you have to take all the rules with a pinch of salt slightly, I think, otherwise you'll go mad.
And did you, before, when you first met and you were thinking, oh gosh, this guy is cool, I want to spend the rest of my life, did you have the children chat then?
You didn't want them, did you?
Well,
after
interestingly,
you married?
we can make ourselves feel a little bit older now by saying that Gareth and I met about 20 years ago outside China White's.
Did you?
So it was
there you go.
many years later of sort of knowing each other a bit that we got together over the Cheltenham weekend in March, 7 years ago in March. And that was it. The kid subject didn't really come up because I don't think we ever had the ability to do so.
Yes.
It hadn't entered my mind that was going to happen.
And that's only 7 years ago.
Yeah,
interesting.
It was only, I mean, Cameron was the person that brought in same-sex marriage. Do you know who the first country was, interestingly?
No, I actually don't.
Ireland.
Really?
Isn't that fascinating?
Love the Irish, yes.
I love them, but from such a
Wow.
Catholic country.
Yes.
It was very interesting that they were the first to legalise it.
Very interesting.
But it was Cameron that brought it in. But since before then, you sit there and you go, well, we're not allowed to get married, not allowed to have kids. So where do we go from here? So although I wasn't thinking wildly about that back in the time, if I think about it, we were brought up with films like My Best Friend's Wedding, etc., where there's always a gay character, gimme, all that kind of stuff, that is the best friend, the best uncle.
Yep.
It's never the dad. However, and I always thought my life would be having the dinner parties as Rupert Everett in My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yes.
And I was content with that. I thought that was quite a wonderful thing to be.
I think that's that
lovely.
sort of stereotype, isn't it?
It is a stereotype, but that's what it was. That was a reality. The gay best friend is a thing and always has been. But now you can be a gay parent, which is, I'm so pleased that we're living in a generation now where this is the first time ever that that we're at an age in our mid-30s where we can have children and it's only just become legal. All the millennia that we've been around in the world. And it just so happens in our lifetime, at exactly the right point to have children, we're allowed to have them.
Yeah. It's very cool, isn't it? And that's why it's even more wonderful that you're both so good about talking through your experience over the last few years.
And
It's
don't
lovely.
get me wrong, it needs to change desperately because right now there is huge inequality because if you have a child and you are a same-sex couple, it screams one thing, and that is that you've got a bit of money, which is not fair. Anyone that is going to be a great parent should have the ability to be a parent, whether it's financial or not. Luckily, we saved and saved and saved. I sold my house. I did everything we possibly could, and we use that money that we can now try and build up again, but we use that on trying to have a baby. But we're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, and that is completely unjust and shouldn't be a situation for anyone wanting it just because you can't.
And what would you do? Would you get the government to fund?
Well, they do.
that?
They do. It's basically a postcode lottery where you can get
Yeah.
3 opportunities or 1 opportunity,
Well,
but
Yeah.
it works in quite a peculiar way.
Well, that's for
roundabout way.
lesbian couples. Same-sex female couples are because it's difficult because surrogacy is a very, very grey area in England and the UK and Ireland, especially Ireland actually. However, as a lesbian couple, you do have a womb. And that is the biggest thing. They can get a sperm, and you can get sperm, and that's fine. We have to find a womb, but on the NHS, you're not allowed to use surrogacy. Full stop.
Right. Yeah.
So for men, it is not equal in any manner.
So surrogacy just isn't an option. So you could adopt.
You could adopt, but again, that's
but- Yeah,
incredibly painful. A
yeah.
friend of mine did that. They've got a
Yes.
7-year-old. They've got a wonderful girl from Spain and got her when she was born. And about 6 months ago, the mother said, I'll have her back, please. And they've had to send
my
the 7-year-old back. This child has no idea who this woman is, apart from being a biological mother. No idea. These 2 guys have brought them up in the most, may I just add, in a very wealthy, lovely family and all that kind of stuff. She's the most wonderful child, happy as Larry, doesn't speak a word of Spanish.
No.
And so now And it's controversial. All of this is
Yes.
controversial. I'm aware talking. This is
Yes.
controversial
Yes.
because obviously the mother, again,
Yeah.
difficult because if she wants the baby back, yes,
Yes.
of course, but it's so hard because that child doesn't know anything
Yes.
else. So lots of difficulties with adoption.
Yeah.
That's not in the UK, that's
It's
in
also,
Spain.
but in the UK in itself, we were speaking to a friend of ours, Debbie, who's fostered for loads of kids.
Yeah, Lydia
she-
from Nearly Wears Essex's mother.
Yeah, and she was talking about it, and there's the process of it is you can go all the way down the line, and you know there's a child ready to be adopted, so on and so on, and you can get there, and at the last minute, everything can change, and it's all taken away from you, and it's just such a heartbreaking process as well. I mean, there much of muchness, aren't there? Really, because it's no way is easy. I mean, really, people going down these routes with surrogacy, IVF, adoption. It really does show you how much they want to love and care for a kid.
Yes.
Because it's you wouldn't wish
My
you sometimes
gosh.
wouldn't wish that journey on your
Yeah.
worst enemy. It's bloody tough.
And did you find you got closer together as a couple?
Did we get
because of
close
it?
together?
Well, there must have been
It was
moments where you
stressful.
actually
It was
hated each other.
stressful. Yeah, it was stressful, and also it was just like this moment in our life where everything was just on hold because we just, you know, you think about things, you plan your life, and you just think, right, okay, well, we will hopefully have kids by this point, so we'll do this or we'll do this, and you plan your life around this hypothetical. And after 4 years, it was 3 years when we were trying. It was tough. It was really tough because you nothing in your mind. You're at this stasis, and nothing changes. Nothing changes.
And your frustration behind this all, and I think a lot of people would understand this, your frustration often goes to the closest person, doesn't
Yes.
it? And that is not fair because you shouldn't do that. But that closest person also is the person that's also going to forgive you the most because you're both going through a traumatic, horrible situation.
That's
And
so
for us,
wise.
it was the three of us. It was us, our surrogate. We had two different surrogates, and what was wonderful is they both came to the baby's first birthday party and met
Amazing.
then. And
Amazing.
weirdly, they had met before.
No, the
But they
universe
actually met
works.
before.
Yeah,
I knew they worked in the same place, but I didn't know they met.
Yeah,
before.
they'd met before. It's so funny.
Wow,
That's amazing.
love that.
But they got on really well, and it's one of those things. A bit like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go down, but it was amazing.
Was it tough, people knowing what you were going through and always asking, how's it going? Did you sometimes just not want to talk about it?
I mean, there were certainly high emotional points, weren't there? Where everything's very raw, and he basically just like. I tell you what happened was we were in Bali when we found out the last time. That was the one before it didn't work. We're in Bali, away filming, and we're going away through all this thing, and we thought it was all good, and it wasn't. And then in that moment, I was just like, maybe this is just never going to happen for us. And you've kind of planned the rest of your life around this idea, and it's such a feeling of loss. And in those moments, they're the tough times when people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, how's it going?" All of this, and you're just a bit like trying to process it yourself, let alone trying to articulate it to someone else. But I mean, we're very open about it anyway. Makes me a bit emotional thinking about it.
But again, that's why we're all on the planet for a reason. And if we can in any way, and I've said it before, I was very lucky to be given an opportunity to join a show that ended up being a success. And so if you can do one thing to anyone, and people can slag off reality TV, I said that before, people can think it's the lowest common denominator on TV, etc., etc., etc. Well, for us, it wasn't. And when we started, it wasn't like that. So we soon realised we had an opportunity to inspire, to educate, to create businesses, to do anything. You look at some businesses that are almost household names now, like Candy Kittens and all sorts of that. These have become huge household name products. And it started by someone saying on Made in Chelsea they would like to open a sweet shop. And it's silly things. However, when it comes to education and trying to inspire people or educate, or life is very difficult. On a Monday night, you want to switch off and you turn on your television. You can turn on the TV and live someone else's life. Wherever you live in the world, you can turn it on and realise that with this beautiful background of fabulous London and Chelsea and the cars and all of the madness of what it looks like, everyone goes through the same. I always used to say when I was younger, heartbreak is one of the hardest things in the world because even the Queen can't take a pill for heartbreak, however much money you've got. So even if you're the poorest person in the world or the richest, we all have one thing in common: is that you cannot fix heartbreak.
So true. So true.
I've never heard you say that before.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice, pretty statement.
He's very wise, isn't
Oh,
he?
he's
I'm
I
so
know.
wisdomous.
So
Look at that. You're wisdomous. That's a great word.
Full of
I
whiz.
love it.
Full of whiz.
Joey Tribbiani line.
Yeah.
You're,
Guys, I'm so wisdomous.
you're
so
literally,
cool.
you're just
So
now.
cool. And parenthood, I think that, expecting your first baby is the other universal thing, isn't it? When you in your situation, you've got so much extra going on. Must have been quite hard being out of your control as well. Because actually, even as someone I've carried 4 babies, 2 twins before me, and I always say I had 4, 2 made it and 2 didn't. But even then, you don't quite believe it until you see them, that they're going to arrive. There's that whole. I mean, it's a miracle. You know more than most. It's a miracle for any child to be conceived.
Absolutely.
And
It's one in
it's incredible.
100 trillion.
Well,
or
400
something.
trillion.
Is that
1 in 400 trillion.
Sorry, what is that stat?
1 in 400 trillion chance of us, the 3 of us,
being born.
actually being born and being here.
God,
Isn't that
I wish
incredible?
I had that luck on the bloody lottery.
Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing?
so we're all amazing. We're all amazing already.
Yeah, that is incredible. 400 trillion.
Yeah.
Well, if you think that when we were doing the sperm challenge, and this is, I don't particularly want that. You don't particularly want to hear about my sperm. I'm just saying, I had 86
we do.
million sperm per milliliter. Right.
Wow.
So
Is that quite high?
that's
obviously nothing
that's
average?
quite a good range. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Melvin, when we were doing it, had 117 million. By the end, but our grandparents, that's a worry we've got right now, our grandparents would have 130, 140 million, and 86 is all right now. It's not bad.
Wow.
If you go,
Yeah.
and one of the other guys did it with, he had under 17, which is almost known as infertile.
Wow.
And you'd have
Well,
to go to IVF.
that's a big takeout, isn't it, for our
big takeout.
generation? Because there's so much that we're exposed to that we don't have any control of, all
Absolutely.
the microplastics, etc., etc.
absolutely.
But quite a lot. And I'm so impressed. I didn't know you stopped smoking the second the children were born. That's
day they were
amazing.
born, yeah.
That's
We
amazing.
both
Both
did,
of
yeah.
you.
Day they were
Hard,
born.
or was it just like a complete
turned it-
no-brainer?
turned
When
it
you
It's either there is something more important at this time, and you're not allowed to hold your baby for half an hour after you have a cigarette. And I was like, I need to hold my baby.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the baby.
I think we
baby's trumped.
we actually spoke to you on that day. Do you remember I gave you a frantic phone call because they were born at 31 weeks in one day, and we were down in London and we had to get up to Durham. And I rang you thinking we were going up to the hospital. This is how naive I was about this. Thinking, oh, we're going to need the car seats. Not we're going to be in NICU for the next 5 weeks. And I'm on the phone to you, and it was so emotional. Do you remember? And I was like, oh, what do we do? Do we get the car seats sent up here? Obviously not going to be taking cars.
It was
to
the
baby's
sweetest
home.
thing because we were at a friend's 60th, and when the phone call came through, and obviously I'm going to pick up your phone call because it's like 31 weeks. I was like, no, it can't be. It'll be just a kit question, and it'll all be fine. Definitely, these babies were coming and wanting the car seats because they weren't born on the doorstep, so up in Durham.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
Up in Durham,
reasonably
so it took us
far away.
How long did it take us to get up there? 4 hours, 4 or something else. It was the most emotional, and
By the
like you didn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
By the time we had reached King's Cross, the babies were born.
yeah.
Yeah, they were born at 6:30, weren't they?
Yeah.
6:28 and 6:30.
Yeah.
But still closer than if you'd had to fly over the Atlantic to America.
absolutely,
So, at least they were only a train journey away.
That's
And then
absolute
your
truth.
life changed in a heartbeat. Oh, my goodness.
Well, that was a very scary moment
Yeah.
when we arrived. We met them for the first time, and we were they were just so small. Cosmo was born at £2.11, and Apollo was £3.10,
And yeah,
and they were so small. They were in NICU for the best part of 5 weeks.
I was looking back on photos of this the other day. One of our friends had a baby that we met the other day. And I was like, oh, they're so small. And they were £7. And I was like, well, ours were over half that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you just don't, it's such a blur from one end to the other. And I remember going to that hospital and just thinking, and NICU with all the beeping and and the incubators, and you don't know what's going on all the wires. It's terrifying. But it was just like, God, it's such an overwhelming emotion, wasn't it?
Did you cry a lot, or
Oh,
were you
so
almost like
much.
without? Yeah,
I think I cried on the phone to you.
Yes, I know. I was crying. I was like, oh my gosh, 8th of July.
Yeah, 8th.
Wasn't
It
it?
was the 8th.
Yeah.
Saturday, the 8th of
Yeah,
July. It was a
yeah.
Saturday, wasn't it?
Saturday, the 8th of July. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. So I mean,
No.
I'm just on the periphery.
Well,
You two were right
You're
in
thinking,
it.
why
My
is
gosh.
this Strongo wanting me to send up car seats up to
Because
Durham,
you
they're
do,
not
because that's the
coming home.
one thing that we're in control of. And you
Yeah.
think in your head, because the plan is you're going to have the babies, you're going to go home from hospital a day or a few days after that.
Yeah.
It's just I completely and you're not the first to have thought that, but then at least when we had a plan to get the car seats, that was all under control.
Yeah.
And then that was great. And then we had another lovely message came a few weeks later, maybe asking if I knew a courier that could transport breast milk.
Oh yes,
London.
yeah. This is from Bex, because she was up with us. Well, obviously, she's at the hospital in Durham, and then when we'll move down to Chelsea Westminster, and then she, rightfully so, wanted a bit of time with her family up in Durham, and then she came down about a week later, didn't she? But we were like, right, okay, well, we want to get as much nutrients and the colostrum and all that sort of thing is super important. So it was
It was amazing. I love
breast
it.
milk.
Yeah, but we got it. Igloo Couriers, I think it was.
It was.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
You nailed
I've
it.
forgotten about that. Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
so many
One of the
many
weirdest
moments.
questions I've asked you, probably.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I have been doing this for over 20 years, and there is not a week that goes by that I haven't, there's a question that I haven't been asked before. You'd think I would have heard it all. But that was the first time I'd had that question. I've had to fly it over to the US or from the US back here.
Yeah.
So I know that side of things, but actually to get it from the UK to UK, didn't know. But within 20 minutes, I knew who to ask. So I asked my 5, various, and then within 20 minutes, I think it's like, yep, absolutely, these are the guys.
I was reading something earlier. You've helped 12,000 parents.
Yeah.
haven't you? 12,000. That's insane.
I know.
How have you been
number.
alive?
12,000
It makes me
parents.
very old, that's why.
It just makes you very good, doesn't it?
Oh, it's very, very niche. And I think we totted it up the other day. It's 30,000 hours of literally sitting with couples for 2 or 3 hours to discuss what kit to get. And actually, it's I'm interested in the kit insofar as getting the right kit to help you get out of the house. So it can be emotionally, mentally, physically supportive. But I think I'm even more interested in helping people feel that they already have it within themselves to be great parents.
Yeah.
The kit's not going to make you a great parent. You've already got it. And I think when I was pregnant, there was no internet. I did, poor Joey, honestly, I was a fruitcake. I did 4 different antenatal classes and read 20 books in my sort of quest for I must know everything. And then, of course, Mia was born when she was just about to be born. I was like, I know stuff. It'll be fine. I was born in Africa, and I sort of thought, well, I'll have my chill side will come out. My goodness me, my half Swiss Capricorn girl. I was honestly, I was hand sanitizing before it was even a thing, and people thought I was really rude when they came to meet the babies, and I asked them to use hand sanitizer. They thought it was really insulting.
I think that's one of the main
Yeah.
things when people come
Whereas
to us,
now
like,
everyone's wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
It was really different.
We don't do that anymore. We don't say wash your hands. Well, I suppose we do.
Yes, we do. All the time. Shoes off,
Do
wash
you?
your hands. The babies come back from the park, wash their hands.
they do.
Yeah,
they
it's
are.
a thing, isn't it?
I tell you what, it is even better. What I love, we do have some day help sometimes, and our lovely lady that helps us, antibacterials, the park seats or the
does she?
on the,
I
the
love
swings.
that. Yes.
And I'm like,
I think fair enough.
well, I don't want them to have chicken pox quite yet, and I know that it's going around a bit, so
Yeah.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
But
When
I
you
love it
want
when
to
she
have
does that.
chicken pox, then you don't do the antibacterial on the swings.
Well, I think that now there's the injection again, whether
Yes.
to take that or not, and I think I might give it to them. But they said if you do that and you do take the injection, you absolutely must have it done when you're 65 or something like that again.
Oh, you get shingles.
Otherwise, you can get quite unwell. So.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that they need to know, that they had that done when they were younger, and remind them when they're 65 when we won't be around. So that's quite a
I'll
difficult
be
one.
around. I'm on NMN. I'll be around forever. I'm not aging.
Well,
I've stopped aging.
We'll remind them at 97. We'll be 98 years old or whatever like that, being like, remind you to get your bloody jab.
I can tell you now, I will be 100. Oh, I won't. I'll be 99. I'll be 100 that year. Oh, hang on. I'll tell him. Don't you worry. I'll tell him.
You'll be there. You'll be there.
You'll
what? Because you, I always talk about the 4th trimester. So that's your first 3 months of being parents. I think it's your hardest first 3 months of your whole life put together. I don't know if you
100%.
think that. Yeah.
100%. And it was coming off the back of being in NICU. Is probably one of the best sort of neonatal post.
We were very lucky.
Like classes, because you learn from all the best people. So when you get home, you're like, right, okay, it's 165 millilitres of milk per kilo. We've obviously either pumped milk that we've got or thing.
Yeah.
And I'm so competitive. I'm like, right, get their weight on, get all this going.
Yeah.
So, and then you're like, right, we're up every 2 hours, and it just becomes this overwhelming thing. And then they adjust you out, like into your house.
Yeah.
Your house changes. Everything you think you put in the right places, you didn't. then you're like trying to find certain things which have gone in the wash or something got thrown up on, then you need to get a duplicate of it.
And the
It's just
washing. I mean,
mad.
did you ever expect to do that much washing?
Our house is like a laundrette. Our house is like a laundrette. I can't even understand the amount of washing. And you get so excited about all the clothes. And then, I mean, with twins, it's a lot because you're doing double of everything.
And you've got 100 nappies a week, for starters.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Insane.
And same amount of feeds. It's mad.
What I'm delighted about now they're a year old is that they are on milk now.
Yes.
Full milk can be 70p, or if we do organic, £1.50 or whatever like that. But it's a hell of a lot cheaper than formula is, because formula really it was expensive, especially for two. We were spending
£1.25 per bottle. Was it £1.25 per
something like
bottle?
that.
Yeah.
Or 12p for milk.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and also best one in the world. Like we used a British one.
We used Kendamil.
We used Kendamil.
Kendamil's great, actually.
Kendamil's
really
amazing,
great.
absolutely amazing.
Kate Middleton used it.
And
I thought, if it's good enough for Kate.
Yeah.
we met them up in Birmingham, didn't we? At one of those
I
shows?
thought also when I tasted in one of the baby shows, and they actually, they said try it, and I was like, this sounds weird having formula, and it's actually delicious, and you can go and actually see. Well, this is not a plug for them as such, and not being paid for this. It purely is what I felt was right, because you can go and see the cows in the Lake District. Well, you don't know with these big brands where these cows are from.
Yes.
And you can actually go and see these cows having a lovely time in the Lake District, and I think that's something quite special.
Yeah.
Which is why I imagine, and I know they won an award, but from the Prince and Princess of Wales because I think they love the product so much.
Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
they used it on their kids. If it's good enough for her, it's good enough for
Yes.
us.
But it's one of those things where you go out and you have to keep it all in stock. And with twins, you burn through that stuff so quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing every 2-hour feeds, and then
Don't do
and then you go and try and find it, and then suddenly it's out of stock somewhere, and then it's mad. I think if we ever went out with them, and go out for a bit, like lunch or whatever, and go and meet some friends, take them out with us. But most of the time, we weren't really social. Well, people coming to the house, we weren't really socialising like we used to. So I think,
But people coming to you, so you were the hub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're always the hub.
Oh, you're always the hub. I love you. You don't walk around with a house key anymore because there's always someone at home.
There's always someone at home.
I don't have a house key.
Do you not either?
I currently don't have a house key on me. But it was. I think we were so immersed in it, and that's what you want to do, because it's the most amazing. You know, it's tough, but it's the most amazing.
But you waited for so long, and I think you were really lucky having that 5 weeks in the hospital. Scary as it was, you had your very own 5 weeks of antenatal class, postnatal class. Also, the babies were really good at sleeping in noise because there's so much light, noise, all of that stuff.
Now that is
That's a
absolutely
bonus,
right.
isn't it?
Both things with that. We were incredibly lucky to have basically 5 weeks of intensive care for ourselves.
Yeah.
During the day, we had lessons every day, and then we had to be out by 6, which was very odd, because you go, "Oh, what do you do?" And you go, "Go home and have a beer, I suppose."
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a weird situation.
Yeah.
So we'd be at school, if you will, all day, looking after these fabulous babies. But you're absolutely right with the noise. There were so many screaming babies in that room, and beeps and all that kind of stuff that you couldn't sleep. So the first 5 weeks, their life was covered in noise.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably
It's a
what
good
shapes
thing.
them.
Yeah.
Because
Amazing
not only
thing. That's a gift, actually.
Variance and light as well, and sort of all the senses. And I mean, if you can change a nappy in an incubator with wires everywhere, you can change a nappy anywhere. It's mad.
And so when you got home, you had all that knowledge. You didn't have the buzzer to press if you're worried about anything. Did you have any moments in the middle of the night where like, oh, should we be worried about this? Do we go to
Gareth
any?
did,
Yeah.
Oh God, I did.
Apollo.
Oh God, yeah. That was. He had bronchitis.
Bronchitis.
Bronchitis. I always
And
get
that
it wrong.
sounds awful.
It
doesn't
was like someone was flicking a door handle,
Ugh.
and I was like, "What is that noise?" And I went through, and like his little arms were blue, and I was like, "Oh my God, right? What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" And then I rang 111, which was an interesting experience. Now, like, a consultant will ring you back after I went through all the questions and stuff, which obviously I'm panicking as a parent, and I was really freaking out. And I then was like waiting for the consultant to ring back. They didn't really calm me, saying it's going to be fine. The baby, there's not all these sort of warning signs. You don't need to go to hospital. And then we're quite near Chelsea Westminster Hospital, so I was like, I'm not going to. The consultant didn't call me for 45 minutes. I'm like,
Did you drive? Did you just get an Uber?
No, I walked.
You walked. I mean, it's
walked.
that close, isn't it?
Yeah, at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I was there until 10 in the morning because he was fine. And then they were like, yeah.
And did
what
you
happened?
put him in the baby carrier or in the pram?
I had him in the
just carrying him in
pram.
your
I had him
arms,
in
literally
the
ran out.
bugaboo.
Yeah.
I wrapped him up, bugaboo.
Donkey.
No, not donkey,
Yeah.
bugaboo butterfly.
Right.
Brilliant things they are. And which actually you got for us. obviously.
I tell you what, bugaboos have been incredible.
They
really
have
are.
been good,
From
haven't
what
they?
our experience
Yeah.
has been
We'll-
faultless.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about how we came about
Yeah.
getting that pram because it's quite a funny story around it. But yeah, straight in there. And then you go in and they're like, yeah, no, this is fairly normal. And I think you have to have these freakouts, don't you, as a parent, where
Yeah.
you're like, you have to, I think
Well, it would
everyone,
be
rite of
odd
passage,
if
you
you
have to go
didn't.
to A&E.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have to sort of, you have to know what everything is. So like, I'm like, when his hands were cold, like going a bit blue, they're like, well, it's just because all the circulation goes to the centre of his body. And what happens? They give him Calpol, paracetamol, whatever, but they give him Calpol. Every answer, give him Calpol.
Yeah.
If it's really bad, cycle it with Nurofen. Like it's always that. And then I had to sit there for 6 hours whilst they waited for observations, checked nothing changed. It was amazing, and they did sort of like calm me down because I was a wreck at that stage.
And meanwhile, were you WhatsApping each other along, or Ollie, were you asleep at that point?
No, you were with Cosmo, so you would have
And
been,
Cosmo
you would
was
have been doing the Cosmo
doing her
stuff.
thing.
I had to get
Yeah.
you to ferry milk to me at the hospital because
yeah.
I left thinking, oh, I'll be back home in a bit, or we'll see what happens.
Well, I remember
Yeah.
that, such a stressful moment. And then I remember putting a video being like, Cosmos, I'm bringing milk round right now, blah, blah, blah. And I'd forgotten to put a lid on the top of the bottle. And someone responded being like, you really should have a top on that if you're walking through central London. And I was like,
That is one thing you become numb to, is all those people.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh man, whether they have children themselves or not that everyone's like this, whether they have children themselves or have children in their lives, everyone's a bloody expert.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that is such a good point. And I
Yeah.
think that's whether you're in the limelight or not. That is something we all suffer from, isn't it? As soon as you become a parent, everyone else, whether it was someone in the queue, the supermarket, or someone you know, or someone you really, really don't know, and you just sort of have to close your ears, don't you, to everything, and know that you do it your own way.
we were in the south of France last week. I don't know if I even told you this. We were in the south of France last week, and we were in a tiny little village, and there was not very many people there. And Cosmo, it was a lovely day, and Cosmo wasn't wearing any socks because it was a lovely day. You didn't need to.
And her feet are actually quite cute.
And they're very cute, and she always kicks them off
now.
anyway, so it's fine. And an old lady just came up and grabbed her foot and went, "Fwa." It's like cold.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thanks for that. Like grabbing my children's foot. Like, you'd never
Yeah.
do that in a million years.
I remember I was pushing Mia along the streets of London, and someone, imagine this with my germophobic thing, and I think she probably was over 75, 80. So it's
Yes,
that
of course.
age group. And she put her finger in Mia's mouth and said, this child needs a dummy. And I was like, and I had no words. I just had to retreat slowly back. I didn't want to be rude, but I couldn't get, obviously, out of there fast enough. But it's extraordinary. So now whenever I recommend prams, I have a really good hood so you can look but don't touch. Because in those days, back in the prehistoric days, you didn't have the big sun hoods. And then you had cameras.
Oh yes,
first
that was
3
different.
months.
Yeah,
That was the whole thing.
I'd forgotten about that as well.
Yeah.
actually.
This is
You
like
had cameras on
was
your
this us?
bed. This, I think, was. Are you having a sort of out of body?
Oh, this was the first night when we came home because we did the YouTube series because everyone was always quite interested in following it along because obviously we did it all on Chelsea, and we picked it up with doing this YouTube series, which was great fun. It was a lot, especially when we first did the kids. But also, it's actually quite nice. And we should watch that actually because it would be good to go back on and just see.
I don't think I've ever watched it.
You have the ultimate
No, we
record.
have done. But I mean, that's just the ultimate record. But the first night, yes, there was like cameras set up in our room, and it's what do we have? What they called the
Snooze
pods.
You had one on each side.
One
of
on
your
each
bed.
side. It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were great.
So they were
Yeah.
great. And I even forgot until now that they slept in our room to begin with for the first 3 months.
Honestly, I know this sounds completely ridiculous, but I really, really, really don't remember an awful lot of those 3 months. I couldn't even remember we were filming.
But it was a blur. But you definitely had cameras there.
Definitely had cameras.
It's extraordinary.
But that was for us. I've done this for 14, 15 years nearly.
That wasn't. Yes, you did. You don't even notice.
So I don't really think about it as that. Although other people would find it completely extraordinary, and everyone wants their own space when they've just had their baby and stuff like that. Well, we came straight. They came straight from Chelsea, Westminster, round the corner. As soon as they went round the corner, there was a camera and followed for the first 3 months.
I tell you what was amazing because actually some very, very, very close friend of ours had help with doing the production, and they're all parents themselves. And
that's
it was
helpful.
a bit like,
Is that helpful?
you know, it was a buffer to forget advice and stuff. And it's always I'm always intrigued with like what other people do or what what we're doing, what they're doing, and
Yeah.
things like that. I think this is one of
You're
the
very good at asking
main
questions.
reasons that you're amazing is because you're always very positive and very like, you're a font of information, but on this, and probably the most expert person that I met on it. But like you're very like engaging with it, and you're very kind, and you're very like helpful, but not being like, oh well, you should do this, and this.
Yes.
You'd be like, oh well, what do you? And it's very like it's a better way of dealing with sort of people who could be new parents.
Yeah.
You
If
know
get
it
what I
all,
mean.
but you're
Thank
not a
you.
know-it-all.
Yeah.
That's
I
a,
love
that's a
that.
really good,
Thank
that's a really
you.
good way of
Yeah.
putting it.
Which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Because it's an odd time because you're both so capable, and then you have children. It's like, ooh, holy schmoly, I don't know what I'm doing. But there's that shared journey that we've been on as becoming a parent. But then also, it's actually all going to be okay. So for anyone listening and is probably thinking, oh my gosh, it's all right for them, everything's perfect, they've got these two gorgeous children and lovely life, it's not without its struggles, as we've
It's not at all.
as we've
No,
said,
no, of
it's
course.
up and down and roundabout, but there's always joy somewhere.
Oh,
And I think glimmers. I always think the day as a parent is chunked up into 4 as a non-parent, but you might have a disastrous morning and your children have just had a complete meltdown in the supermarket. Oh my gosh, this is awful. But then 2 hours later they've got that that moment where you put your hand out by your side and their hand just goes in
it's
it.
the sweetest
Just-
thing.
Oh,
best
that's
thing
going
I
on my
ever-
desert island. That feeling
yeah,
of the
lovely.
little hand is going into your hand, or they've just woken up and their hair's all over the place and they've got that snuggly red cheek. There is
they've
just
got that-
they've
there are
got
so
like
many
that sleep
moments and
smell.
glimmers during the day, and there could be all sorts of rubbish going on
Yeah.
with work and life and family, but then they just bring you back.
It's the greatest thing about being a parent, and that is those moments where sometimes you've got to remember the first 6 months they don't give you an awful lot. So after the first year or whatever, suddenly I get a cuddle, and as soon as we walk into the room every morning, the excitement of them shouting "da da 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 da," and it's literally like you're back,
It's just
and
mad, isn't it?
they love you
Yeah.
beyond anything in the world because they don't know about anything else yet. But you are their world. Interestingly, I hadn't really thought about it yet, but they both of us call Dad, and they don't know what they're quite doing yet because they won't understand the politics of that until they're a little bit older. However, they are both of us. They're going Dad, Dad, Dad every time they see both of us, which is really interesting. And they don't do that with other people that are in the house most days, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's just the most. It's mad how much you love them more and more each day. I think I said to you the other day about Apollo had this operation.
Yes.
And it was that moment. And for anyone who ends up going through something like this or has to go through something like this, be prepared, because one of you goes and puts and has to have the child take the general anaesthetic, which is awful. I in my head going into that day, I was like, right, we'll go to the hospital, we'll be there at this time, we'll drop off. I've got to then go have a meeting, then I can come back. Oliver would either come home or stay there. I got there and I was like, I'm not going to leave it. I love this thing so much. And I'm normally the one who does all the inoculation and stuff like that, because I'm like, it's good for them. Like I'm a bit more stoic. Whereas you're a bit more of a mess.
No,
I came out of that, and after he went under, and I was like, I was bawling my eyes out, and I went into the room, and he hadn't even come in, and he was bawling his eyes out, and I was like, in that moment, I was like, why would I ever think with this thing that I love so much, and I'm so dedicated to, and I'm actually delighted that I'm not such a wallflower. I do quite like my life, and I did quite like it being about me and my husband. But like,
not that
now,
you had any main character moments.
no,
or stories,
I'm no main character energy at all. And now I don't care. All I care about is them. And I was like, for those, and it was horrendous because they were like, right, it's going to take an hour and a half for the operation, not knowing he'd be knocked out for an hour before the operation while they prep him and everything. So by 2:00, I'm like, something's wrong. No one comes out and tells you anything. And I'm just like, if something's gone wrong, if it's not turned out right, and this is a surgery he had to have, there we had no choice about it, I would just be like, how can I go on? And it's mental, and it's just like mad that this
It is
thing is just
extraordinary, isn't it?
obsessed
And
with
actually, and you're right, you love them more and more with each passing
every day. Every day.
And
It's
you're, as I've said before, you're no longer the lead chapter in your own book. However, I've never been more delighted to go to another chapter and be as vital, but just that they are the main character.
Yeah.
And I'm also very aware it's not my life. It's their life and it's their decisions and it's what they want to do, and whatever they do, we're there to support. And I think that's really special because I don't like it when people say, oh, you should call your baby that, or I don't like that name very much. You've had your choice to name your child. Like grandparents saying that. You've named your children what they want to be. It's our choice now.
Yes.
And my dad was like, oh, it'd be not nice. Well, Cosmo, what about Cosmo? Alison would be much nicer.
Yeah.
I was like,
Ali-
Ali for
Ali
short.
for short.
We were like, oh, great, thanks,
Ali
Dad.
for short. Not, you know, Alison, Ali's a very nice name, but not for us.
And the character situation is amazing because I'm so utterly delighted. Your job is to shape that child into the most important things of my eyes is empathy, politeness, kindness, and anything else we can help with. But if you've got that as a staple as your life, I think you've got life fairly made.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. You can do anything. You can take any job. You can be with anybody. You can respect another human.
My mum famously never read a school report of mine because her father used to beat her when she did it badly.
Gosh.
And so she never did that. And Mum said, don't worry. And I didn't do the best I possibly could because I wasn't meant for school. I was meant to be out. I was meant to make people smile in some manner, or, as it happened, to do that in front of national television. But
With good manners and kindness and empathy.
But I had those things.
You do.
And
In
that's what
spades.
Mum
Yeah,
did.
you both do. And I think you've always said that your children are their own people. You're your own people and you can guide them. And it's that roots and wings, isn't it? So to give them the really firm foundation, knowing they know they're supported and loved and they're being raised by the collective. And then it's so I've come out on the wing side. So Mia and Poppy are really they're flying, but I don't want them to fly. We were so blessed when COVID happened because they came back home when they wouldn't otherwise. So we got an extra couple of years of them being at home, which was amazing.
It's funny, isn't it, that you're just like,
There's a story that I thought of a while ago, and I do write little books every now and then, and I enjoy doing that. But there was one I thought of the other day that years ago, I love the idea that there's a lobster in a lobster tank, and someone's family goes and rescues it and put it back into the ocean as to show second chances. But I quite like the idea of making this a thing every Christmas that you do it. Just there's something gets a second chance, and call it the Christmas lobster. And it's a tradition that could be that. But I thought a lovely little book called The Christmas Lobster.
Didn't you actually do that?
Now, there is a story about this, that I did actually do this. And I thought, what a lovely thing I've done. And I put it all over social media. Little did I know I buggered up somewhat, and I introduced Maine lobsters into the British Channel. And I got a message from the Environmental Agency saying, you've got to be very careful. If you do this again, you may well alter the course of humanity. And I was like, oh my God, I've introduced Native American species into the British waters and could have wiped out the
don't no one
British
just
lobster.
before you go releasing lobsters everywhere, everyone every year. Do just double check.
Any one piece of kit that worked quite well for you or didn't work, like a big fail or a big success? Was there any one that you thought, I'd never get that again? Or actually this worked, I couldn't live without it?
Or as a product?
Yeah.
If I'm honest, the baby machines, the like baby brazzers, all that kind of stuff, the Tommy Tapino,
Cool.
all those kind of stuff.
Yes.
Those baby machines, lol. No, those baby milk makers are unbelievable. I must admit, that's something that I would always, the sterilizer, unbelievable. Your Anita's House,
The crib,
the
playpen.
Did that work well for you?
Beyond, we couldn't have done it without it.
Because there's two
And I
of
say
them.
that to everyone.
It literally, it was ended up moving various places around the house with us. Which probably should have got more than one, but it was like it was perfect because you just put them in there.
I think I suggested more than one, and it was so scary that even the idea of having one in your house, I think you did really well to have one.
Who was it? I think who was it that I suggested the idea of because basically your house is getting overtaken by all this kid stuff, and I've been around people's houses before, and I hate mess.
Yeah, and we'll never be like them. Yeah,
no, and I'm like everything has to have a place and it has to be organised, and I'm a really organised, tidy person. Not that it's sometimes my partner sort of circumvents that, but I was like, I can't have too much everywhere. It's a lot to get my head around, but yeah, we probably should have had more than one. But it was perfect because, especially with twins, put them in there during the day, and you're just doing your bits and bobs. And then obviously, as they get bigger, you lower it, and then they can use it as a proper playpen.
Absolutely,
it was brilliant.
I do have a top tip.
Yes, excellent.
Which is something that I didn't know at the time, and we have found it,
Mm-hmm.
and it is with the MAM bottles that you have.
Yep.
You can go online, and they don't
Yep.
sell them in shops, but you can
Yes.
get them on Amazon.
Yes.
And they're the MAM bottle holders,
Oh, cool.
and they're about
yes.
£6 for 2.
Yes.
And from 4 months, our children were,
They were
feeding themselves.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
that, and whenever I see a child that's sort of our age and having the bottle and struggling, I go up to them and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm a dad too, but I just want to say, you get these, and I get messages on the internet, on the DMs afterwards saying, oh my God, it's changed everything.
Yeah.
So that's my big top tip
That's
if you're using MAM
great
bottles.
top tip.
There was that,
Great.
especially when you used to do the we were feeding twins, and then when you're obviously growing up, and it's like that stage that then they can take the bottle themselves and feed themselves, and you don't have to be there like this for an hour.
Well, you just get 5 minutes to do something. Like sterilise the bottles or breathe or go to the loo.
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
Have a shower is my big one. I tell you what, one of the, it's the, like, if you can get 15 minutes, and if you're on your own, you get 15 minutes, you put on something, or you put on put them with something interactive or something, and you're not going to have them screaming, because even like, I would hate that. You can go and have a shower. Otherwise, there were those days where you just basically hadn't showered.
Tony's boxes are amazing.
They're very
well.
good.
They're absolutely fantastic. They've been brilliant.
Yes, because you're not looking at a screen, but you've got the imagination and the storytelling. And
well, at the moment, we're still on classical music. So every single night they go to bed with classical music, and that goes on till probably about an hour and a bit after they fall asleep.
Yeah,
and so they fall asleep to that. I think also, if you're listening to wonderful memories of Bach or Tchaikovsky or etc. like that, and I think it's probably just a good learning development to have that kind of in their mind. Listening to classical, it's calming, it's soothing, but also, I suppose, instinctively and without them knowing, it's kind of giving them an insight into music and tone and stuff like that, which is probably quite important for development.
Yeah, really lovely. And do you remember those Etta Loves, the black and white muslins?
Yes,
they're quite good, aren't they?
Yeah,
and all those,
lovely.
Especially when they're young, because obviously that's what they can see.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant.
They can only see, I think, black and white for the first few weeks, and then red is the first primary colour they see, I think.
That's all on there,
so they've got all those amazing developmental sort of mats and things you put around
absolutely,
basket and
they were
pram.
fab. I'm just trying to think what else we had back then.
Yeah. And the criteria, because we were talking about the pram, weren't we? How is that? How are you going to ever pick a pram to get into your house?
This is quite funny, wasn't it? Because we were dead set on, we didn't want one behind the other. We wanted them side by side, because you don't want one looking at the back of the other one. And you want to be, and it's not particularly nice. You want them, especially when they get 4, 5, 6 months on, and they're more engaged with the environment. And it was all about this width, wasn't it?
Yes.
And whether it would fit through the door, and it just fits through the door.
Within a couple of millimetres.
It was meant to. And if you get it slightly wrong, it's a pain in the arse to try and get it through.
I mean, there are quite a few houses in London where we've done a little shaving of the wheel sort of shape, so it does go through. You were so sure, weren't you, side by side, that you could face them towards you and away from you.
Yeah.
Decent shopping basket, because where you're
does
living
help.
centrally, it helps a lot, doesn't it? Because you go for a pint of milk, and it's never a pint of milk.
No, of course.
So that's important.
No, it's brilliant. And the I remember because it looks wide. Well, it is wide, and you can narrow it down if you have to. If there's some way you can't get it through, but you're so cautious when you first go out, and you're like, right, will it fit? Will it fit now? I'm just like, vroom. Like,
you've got it.
I know where it's going to fit. And people looking at that, like, well, that fit. Yep, everything does fit in the taxi. Brilliant. So if
and this is the Bugaboo Donkey, isn't it?
Bugaboo Donkey 5, it's brilliant.
Works so well. Yeah,
I love that.
You had the lovely navy one, which was really cool.
Yes, very cool.
And then for travelling, Bugaboo Butterfly ended up being
they
one,
are
didn't it?
brilliant, aren't they? They're absolutely brilliant. And it's one of these things where because they can go in the overheads, and when you go on a plane, they're like, oh, we'll check that underneath. I'm like, whenever I go to an airport and they check it underneath, it always ends up on, oversized baggage thing. It doesn't come out for an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm always just trying to take it on the plane with me. I'm like, no, it goes in the overhead locker. And they do perfectly. And they're just up and down.
And it's a
so
proper
quickly.
one-handed fold thing, because you've got 2 babies. I mean, luckily 2 babies, 2 people.
Absolutely.
So that's helpful.
I mean, I don't know how people do triplets.
Triplets is a whole different thing.
I wouldn't even know where to start.
No.
I mean, when you travel with you've got your own carry-on, you've got the nappy bag, you've got the prams, and you've got the baby. When you do have to pick everything up, you have to be like, you've got about 10 minutes. You don't want to be at the back of the queue getting onto the plane. You've got about 10 minutes before you can get it all up before you start falling apart.
I do have another tip.
Yeah, good.
Actually, and it's quite an interesting one, is make sure when you are going flying with the baby, first thing, make sure they feed whilst going up really important because they don't have the swallow capacity or the ear emptying, whatever what we can do, clearing. But also
Equalise.
make sure when you speak to the airline before you book in the cot, because not everyone has the cot. It
Yes.
doesn't cost any more money, but you have to book it in. They can't just say, "May I please have a cot?"
Yes,
You have to book it in.
That's
because
a very
we
good tip. And that's
buggered
long
that
haul,
up.
isn't it?
That's
Yeah.
long haul.
Yeah.
And also, nice way possible, make sure that they have two if you've got twins, because mainly, and this is if you're going, maybe if you're going business or whatever like that, sometimes in business there's only ever one cot. And when you have twins, that's not ideal.
No, it's not going to work, is it?
I thought the mad
No.
thing about that was because when you book on, it's how many children, how many under 2, and then they're obviously on your lap.
Yeah.
And we got on the plane. They're like, "Oh well, we weren't told that you had babies." I was like, "We booked them on. They've got a ticket for them.
Yes.
They checked.
Yes.
We booked this 3 months ago." And they're like, "Oh well, you should have phoned up and requested." I was like, well, "Surely this should be an automatic thing."
No, it's so interesting. That's
It's-
very good because
it's
you're not the
mad.
first one to say that. So
Yeah.
actually, advice for anyone listening is always triple check the booking and tell people again and again and again.
Check. I mean, I mean, the first time we went away, we took everything in the kitchen sink with us, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Like travel cots,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Bugaboo again. Travel cots are amazing. They are the only. Have you ever wrestled with one of those
Anyone would
ones where you
think
have to
Bugaboo is
pull?
sponsoring the show.
No, they're not.
Actually,
They're
they
not.
really
They're
aren't.
not. They just are
They
brilliant.
really aren't. They're just really good products.
You know the those old school ones. You've got to clip the sides. You've got to pick it up from
Yes.
the bottom and do that. And
Yes.
it takes you 15 minutes. You jam your finger in.
Certainly
and
you
it's
can't
dreadful.
do it after a glass of wine.
No,
That's
that's
for
well,
sure.
no, you can't. You end up snapping it.
Impossible. Yeah.
But the Bugaboo one is up and down in like 3 seconds. That is delightful. The first time my dad saw it, because my dad had an old school one that when my brother had his kids, first time he saw it, it was like, this would have saved me so much stress.
You've had a child or two at the right
Yeah.
time, my son.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
And anything you wish you'd known before Apollo and Cosmo were born that you now know?
Don't let people scare you into thinking, oh, life's going to change. Yes, it will, but you're doing this for a reason because you want your life to change. Of course it's going to change, but it's not as frightening as you think it is because you're going about it. It's not, it's all right. And I think, people do like to scare you. And I don't like that very much. You will be okay and it does get a bit easier. But the first 6 weeks aren't easy, but it's not meant to be.
No.
You're looking after a human or 2 or 3.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Great advice.
I think it's because, especially because our twins, they sort of were very sicky at the start with like flus, coughs, everything like that. Because the best one in the world, everyone knows when the kid goes to nursery, they basically pick up something, something that normally isn't strong enough to get you, but they incubate it like in a perfect petri dish, and they give it to you. These two were just passing stuff back and forwards all the time, and it was that thing where basically it would get to, and it would always be 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. And you'd just be like, oh God, what's going on? And it's the worst panicking feeling. I wish I knew what my experience is now of, what something is, when how to deal with it, Calpol. Always Calpol. And
The magic potion.
but I think you have to go through that regardless. But I think that would have saved me a lot of stress. I think I've started going grey, and I think it's because of that.
No, you're looking good. You're looking good.
I'm going grey. I'm going grey. And I was like, I'll never go grey.
I've been grey since I was 23.
There you go. Yeah.
But I'm going grey. But
It's
silver
okay.
fox.
But they're greys of wisdom, and
they're greys of
we
the greys of
love the
13-month-old
grey. It's all-
children.
yeah, I know.
That's what they're grey.
Oh, and you'll know that I normally ask anyone coming on here what their one pearl of wisdom would be that they would share with someone expecting their first baby. Now you've got twins, so I'm going to give you 2.
Oh, goodness
You're allowed
gracious.
to. What you can each have one actually. What pearl of wisdom would you give to anyone expecting their first baby?
Pearl of wisdom. So for me, I think just community around you is a huge thing. So don't, your friends come over. One of my friends, one of my really, really good friends, I'm godfather to a child, she had a difficult time in the beginning and was quite isolated. And she was quite tense. His first baby, and the baby didn't sleep, it had tongue tie, lip tie. It was very tough. And when she came out to the pub about 3 months after she was born and to meet us, and she was like tense, and she was like stressed out, and the baby was tense. And I was like, give it to me. And she goes, no. I was like, give me the baby, it'll be fine. And then she's like, she'll cry, and she's not crying. And I'm like, you're passing your baby around, having your friends around, like, just being like, yep, hand it over at some stage. You need a break for sure at that stage. Just handing it over, and that's one of the best things because they then aren't too sensitive about going around, and then they're not shy. I would hate to have a shy child.
Don't think that I'm being controversial with this, but we decided at 12:30 or 12, whatever time, 1:00, they have their lunch and they go for a walk and etc. Instead of going for a nap time. So anywhere in the world, they can be in their buggy and they sleep instead of having to put them down for 2 hours in their whatever.
Yeah.
And if you can get them to sleep in their buggy instead, then that helps life a lot.
I think that's a great tip. And actually you started off by being in NICU in the light and the noise and the everything else. Great training for being out, because actually you two are just as if, and this is controversial to say, if not more important than your babies, because if you can look after yourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, you're in a better position to look after your babies so that they grow up to be regulated, confident, kind, empathetic humans.
And also do expect that some of your friends won't be as useful as you thought they might have been. They might be your best friends. If they've not had children before, I think it's normal for them to go a little bit quieter than they usually were, because and allow them to do that and allow yourself to find other people. There are so many people around with babies, and I think it's, if you don't have anyone around you that's doing it with your friends, go and find some others. Just go and talk to people.
I must say, as many like parent friends we have, a lot of the people that are there most of the time are people who don't yet have kids, who are just generally quite loving people.
Yeah.
But
has anyone surprised you?
Has anyone surprised us? Anyone surprised us? There will be 100%.
Not surprised us as such, but I don't know if I have.
They've all just been lovely as you hope they must.
Sophie Herman, probably.
She's amazing. Yeah, she's amazing with them. But it's really gratifying because it really shows you, it's like not an acid test to show you who your friends are, but like it really just does sort of quantify if you've got a good group of friends around you.
But it does, doesn't it? And you hope they might, but not, as you say, not everyone is in that headspace at that time.
You kind of like, when you first have kids, you're like, it's going to be such a burden for someone to have to come over and look after them. If you know, those, after we got into about month 4, we were like, we really probably should go on a date. We haven't been on a date in about 6 months.
It's time.
I should probably wax my chest. One of those things that you look in the mirror and I'm like, I probably have a haircut or have my eyebrows done or something to make myself look slightly more attractive.
How did he ever love me? And you kind of, and then you're like, and you always sort of think to yourself, oh well, we'll find a sitter that we can always rely on and stuff like that. Actually, ask your friends, because if they're well, not if they're good friends, but like if they're in their lives, it's a nice thing for them to do because it also engages them more.
And
it makes special memories for them with it. It makes it more personal for them rather than being coming around and being there with the kids whilst you're there, and it's all sort of monitored.
Well, was it Oscar Wilde who said your children are delightful until their parents show up?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Because they're really, really lovely without us, and then we come up and we sort of spoil the mix a bit sometimes. Yeah. But you're right, and I think we don't want to burden our friends by thinking, oh gosh, I'm bringing twins and this is just annoying for them. But actually, we're helping others by asking them to help us, because it is a joy and a privilege to be. I mean, it's a real privilege to be asked to hold someone's baby, let alone look after them for a couple of hours.
Absolutely.
Especially that you two, like a friend of theirs, can then go on a date.
Yeah,
it's very exciting. You still like each other. I can feel the vibes are good. So this is all great after twins, a year and a half in.
When was I not
this
with
is
you?
Cool.
I wasn't with him on Monday, and then he came home and was like, I missed you today. So I missed you too.
Oh.
I'm literally, I don't know, that was a bit sad.
It's terribly soppy, and I'm very aware there's 25 minutes before we have to wash the children in their bath.
No, it's good. It's and the friend point we were saying, it's natural because that's how things used to be.
Yeah, we were meant
sort
to
of nature versus nurture.
Nature
always, tribes, things like that. People help look after kids.
Exactly. Well, you've instinctively got it. I can't thank you both enough for coming on today. Honestly, you're a joy.
Absolutely.
Thank
you're
you
an
for
absolute
having
joy.
us.
Will you come back as Apollo and Cosmo grow?
Oh,
you can share more pearls of wisdom.
100%.
My goodness.
When they start properly, when they're properly talking, we can get them on the podcast. Kids say the darndest
Get them
things.
on. Absolutely. Yeah. We need 5 of us on this podcast.
Yeah.
God, could you imagine?
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please do like, share and subscribe to our Anita's List podcast show to stay up to date with our latest conversations. Together, we can all be part of the village to support new parents.